Good morning. If you could all take your seats, that would be wonderful. Welcome to the summit of the Sierra Nevada. We were delayed a little bit because we hear that parking has been sold to China, and we don't have much left in California. Just a announcement from the administration of this building. Please look around now like you're on an airplane. Where are the exits? And identify two that are closest to you. In some cases, an exit may be behind you. I don't think, well, maybe, okay. In the event of a fire alarm, we are required to evacuate this room. Please take your valuables with you and do not use the elevators. While staff will endeavor to assist you to the nearest exit, you should also know that you may find an exit door by following the ceiling-mounted exit signs. Evacuees will exit down the stairways and possibly to a relocation site across the street. If you cannot use stairs, you'll be directed to a protective vestibule inside a stairwell. Should we have to relocate out of the building, please obey all traffic signals and exercise caution crossing the street. Kind of sounds like my mother. So thank you, administration of EPA, for those wise words. In this new position that I have, bear with me, I got a couple of minutes to welcome you and say a few words. Thank you again for all being here. As you know, the Sierra Nevada Conservancy was created to provide a voice for the region, its people, and a vision of the range of light that would brighten its light going forward. We are asking all of California and our friends in Nevada to lend their support in these efforts. I want to thank my predecessors, Secretary Chrisman and B.J. Kerwin, for their amazing leadership. And to our good friend of 44 years, Secretary John Laird, for his vision and perseverance. And a special thank you to Jim Branham, who has guided this organization for over 11 years, and the wonderful staff that we have. You'll get to know them over time, and we've had the great pleasure of embarking upon close to 300, if not more, projects around the Sierra with their help and guidance. And as we look forward, ways to sustaining funds for this organization and for the protection and enhancement of the Sierra Nevada, for sustainable funding, these efforts so far are not dependent on the ups and downs of the bond cycle. We want to get off the bond cycle and into some long-term funding options for the resources that the state of California's citizens deserve, and we need to continue to protect and enhance. We look forward to your thoughts, brilliant ideas, and your passion for the iconic Sierra Nevada. So again, welcome. Thank you. Next. Jim Branham, our illustrious leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So welcome again to everyone. I am Jim Branham, the Executive Officer of the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. We appreciate you all being here. We appreciate all of the folks up here at the front of the room who are key partners in the agency world, and Steve Frisch, who's leaving. We welcome, we really appreciate everyone's participation. We've got a full day of discussions today, so kind of buckle in. I wanted to start out by actually acknowledging the room we're in. This is the Byron Scher Auditorium. Last night, a number of us were at the Sierra Fun annual event and got to spend some time with Senator Scher, and I just want to basically do a shout out for the work that he did. There's a plaque in the back of the room. Take a moment at some point to look at it. The work he did throughout his career in improving the environment in California, and Senator Scher was one of the inaugural members of our board, so it was great to see him last night. Mr. Brissenden and I tried to convince him that he should stick around and come to the meeting today, and he politely declined, having gone to more meetings in his life than he ever cares to go to. So it's a great honor, though, to be meeting in this room named after him. So today's focus, as John indicated, is really around investment, the opportunities to invest, the need to invest, and so on. It is the third annual Watershed Improvement Program Summit, So we wanted to spend just a minute or two kind of updating you on some of the things going on in the Watershed Improvement Program, and then we'll ask our esteemed colleagues here at the dais to introduce themselves, and if they've got any words of wisdom they'd like to impart before we get into the day, that would be greatly appreciated. First of all, I want to draw your attention to the easel over there. It has a lot of information that helps us get the word out using social media. It is a very forward program we've got in terms of trying to use social media to tell our story. We have just updated the restorethesierra.org website. I urge everyone to spend some time there, bookmark it. Those of you that tweet, it'd be great to, I don't know, shut down the internet today. Just let's go crazy out there. I notice people tend to multitask when I talk anyway, so now's a good time to put out a tweet. Kind of let Steve's doing it right now. Have people show up. It's not too late to come. Again, there's a series of hashtags there, but we would really appreciate getting the word out and the intention spread. All of you should have gotten, and if you haven't, please grab a update to our State of the Sierra Nevada Forest, a document we released in 2014. A lot has happened, a lot of new information that we're using. It dawned on us that the report did not even mention the words tree mortality in it, that it was probably due for an update. So we just released this today as its premiere, so take a look at it. And again, lots of information on the restorethesierra.org website. We continue to have a lot of moving pieces under the Watershed Improvement Program. Our restoration needs assessments continue to take place both with our federal partners and other partners in the watershed, so we continue to gather information that we think creates a compelling foundation for the story of needing to invest in the Sierra Nevada and, quite frankly, the consequences of not doing so. So those efforts continue to be underway. We've partnered with our sister agency in the Tahoe Basin, the California Tahoe Conservancy, to co-lead a Tahoe Central Sierra Resilient Forest Initiative. Many of the agencies here, obviously the Forest Service is a key partner in that. That's a focus within the broader Watershed Improvement Program, and is really designed for us to not only increase the work that's being done and build off of the many efforts that are occurring in that landscape, but also hopefully to explore ways of doing business differently. I think we've all come to the conclusion that we need to learn some new tricks if we're going to be able to really increase pace and scale of restoration. So this particular landscape is a real focus. It's obviously a landscape that most experts would suggest is next in line for the kind of tree mortality we've seen further south if we don't continue to catch breaks with the weather and such. The other pilot that we're working on, I want to acknowledge Chief Himmelot's leadership at CAL FIRE. We developed a Southern Sierra tree mortality pilot last year. We continue to think of ways that we can use that to, again, explore how to do business maybe a little bit differently. That effort is, as I say, is ongoing. It generally is the area between Bass Lake and Shaver Lake, with North Fork appropriately in the middle. Supervisor Wheeler would remind us North Fork is the geographic center of California, so it was too perfect not to have it in the middle of the map. But a lot of activity going on there, obviously, around tree mortality. So with that, I want to basically allow, and I should mention one other thing. This afternoon, our board members will be seated up here in addition to Chair Brissenden. They are currently in the front of the room, and maybe our SNC board members could give a wave to the crowd behind you. Let them know who you are. Great, thank you. We appreciate that. With that, we're going to just ask folks up here at the dais to introduce themselves, who you are, who you're with, and if you've got any comments about Watershed Improvement Program, they're always welcome, particularly positive ones. So we're going to start at the end here with Woody Schmick with the with the National Park Service.
Good afternoon, or good morning, everyone. My name's Woody Schmick. I'm the superintendent at Yosemite National Park, also superintendent at Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. I'm wearing a couple of hats right now while we have some critical vacancies. Very pleased to be here and very happy to contribute and learn around this topic. It certainly affects the national parks in the Sierras, and we look forward to collaborating with the state and our partners at the Forest Service and elsewhere on these issues. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Wright, Executive Director of the California Tahoe Conservancy. I'm over here.
It's where the dead tree section is.
Hello. Lek and Neil Mortimer, Degum, DLA, Hungalalti, Guum, Tahanu. My name is Neil Mortimer. I'm the chairman of the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California. It's a pleasure to be welcomed here and to be seated at this diocese with you folks. Coming off the mountain today, I was coming down, out of the watershed and seeing a lot of the snow on the top of the Sierras that most of us haven't seen for a long time. Everyone's really excited about it, but, over the course of the last 5 years or so, the weather patterns have changed dramatically and the land is truly, suffering to keep up with the pace of us human beings. So it's important, and I feel very strongly and support this board, depending on what you guys talk about today, that we take action and, we continue to take action. There's been conservative efforts for hundreds of years that have taken place, some not in a good way, but, before that there were thousands of years of conservancy that provided this wonderful land that everybody sure enjoys. So once again, I thank you for being here. So it's great to have this opportunity.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Hunting. I'm the Chief Deputy Director at the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Pleasure to be here this morning. Our department is a partner and supporter of many of the initiatives of the Conservancy. So it's really a pleasure to hear some of the speakers today and kind of get a little more information on the Conservancy's looking forward kind of initiatives. One thing I wanted to mention is the department has a fairly new program designed to assess watersheds and ecoregions at a large kind of robust scale that I think, and this is embodied in legislation from last year, Assembly Bill 2087, that provides for regional conservation assessments. And I think there's an opportunity under this new program to really kind of improve and strengthen the partnerships that you'll hear about in some of the initiatives.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Conrad-Seda. I'm Deputy Secretary for Climate Policy here at the Cali PA, and I'm pleased to be on the dais for the third time for these WIT programs. And the work that we're doing at Cali PA on climate really cuts across all of the agencies, and so this example coming from the Watershed Improvement Program is really important, showing how we can work across agencies at the federal level and the state level, and then work with locals and regional groups on the ground to make sure that the good ideas come to fruition. That's been a model for us, I think, in climate policy, and especially in another program that Louise Bedsworth and I are working on with Tuolumne County and a couple of other agencies to implement another pilot program in the Rim Fire Burn area called the National Disaster Resilience Competition Community and Watershed Resilience Program. So Louise may talk more about that too. But thanks to Jim and all of you for being here today. I'm really looking forward to learning more.
Good morning. My name is Kaylee E. Bright. I'm the Deputy Secretary for Climate and Energy at the Natural Resources Agency. I'm sitting in for Secretary Laird, who was going to be saying some anecdotal, lighthearted stories this morning, but he unfortunately had to share those stories in D.C. at a infrastructure hearing in Congress. So I'm his replacement. I won't have the same story length, but I can point to the importance of forest health in all of our agency's programs. And it really is our role as an agency to connect the dots between the benefits that a robust forest health program can provide to the different policy areas that we represent, from energy, water, ecological diversity, and just general state of quality of life for the state. And right now, the most important piece that we're really trying to quantify and identify is all of the different connections within the carbon world and how they fit together in our short-term and shorter-term and longer-term strategies around climate. So thank you for bringing this group together, and I look forward to the discussion.
Well, good morning. I'm Ken Pimlott, Director of CAL FIRE, and I couldn't help but notice that while Patrick Wright is in the National Jewel section, those of us down here are in the dead tree or the tree mortality section. So not sure what Jim was trying to say, but no, it's absolutely a pleasure to be here and also to be part of all of the efforts that are going on in the central and southern Sierra and many other areas around the state relative to forest health. Obviously, front and center and certainly on the report is tree mortality. It's been a challenge that all of us in this room and many more have been dealing with for several years now. And despite the weather and what we're seeing now with rainfall and precipitation, we all know that's going to continue to be a challenge going into the years going forward. It was certainly reminded this last week or the last several weeks of the importance of watersheds, and as we dealt with this response to the flooding around the state and in particular the emergency at Lake Oroville, and it was really important and it pointed out that our water infrastructure, it's not just the built dams and the conveyance systems, but it's the upper watersheds conveying all the way down to the delta. And I think this is another good opportunity to talk about the value that the watersheds, the upper watersheds, the forested watersheds play. And the one thing, in addition to air, that we all need is water and how we communicate that. So again, some other opportunities. We're happy and very much to be part of, obviously, the challenge in dealing with responding to tree mortality. The projects that Jim talked about in Madera County, where we're responding to the aftermath, but also working ahead of the challenge. In those areas that have yet to be impacted by tree mortality, how can we demonstrate good forest management and forest health practices that help prevent and mitigate these devastating fires like the Rim Fire or this tree mortality crisis that we're in. So again, very happy to be here and to listen to other speakers and be part of it. Thank you.
Thanks. Good morning. My name is Louise Bedsworth. I'm the Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. Pleasure to be here and really looking forward to the conversation. As Ashley mentioned, I've had the pleasure of working with SNC on implementation of a $70 million grant we got to do resilient recovery in the Rim Fire footprint, and working with Tuolumne County and the Forest Service and CAL FIRE, and I always leave folks off, but it was a tremendous effort that really linked across local, regional, and state and federal partners to put together a program that we hope can be replicable and not be just applied post-fire, but could help us to implement some of the proactive measures to restore forest and watershed health, tying that to rural economic development and community resilience. And so we're finally in the stages of starting to actually be able to do some projects on the ground almost. And so really looking forward to continuing to work with SNC and building on the principles of the Watershed Improvement Program to do that work. And so really looking forward to it. And I also going to put in a plug for restorethesierra.org because I will be speaking to 3 6th grade science classes on Friday about water and trees and climate, and I have been using your resources extensively, and they're very, very helpful, so thank you.
Great. Thanks. I'm Stephen Moore. I'm a board member on the State Water Board. I'm a civil engineer by training, but I have some biology in my background. I'm here to support the Sierra Nevada Conservancy and the other agencies on this inextricable connection between healthy watersheds and healthy forests and clean and reliable water supply for people and for fish and wildlife. Infrastructure is a major focus of the state and regional water boards. We all know about our regulatory programs, and these days we're really trying to steer investments for regulatory compliance into concepts such as in the montane regions, investments in forest and meadow health for the water quality benefits, but also for the long-term water supply reliability benefits. We're recognizing resource value of things like stormwater and recycled wastewater in our policies, and this year, just last month, we're leveraging our SRF loan program significantly to be able to invest more in infrastructure, but not just concrete and steel infrastructure for water quality and water supply, also for natural infrastructure. So, at this point in time, today's accounting standards don't adequately address green infrastructure assets such as forested watersheds, wetlands, and aquifers. So, even though these natural landscapes are often an agency's most important assets. So these omissions predispose agencies to fund built solutions rather than green alternatives with greater, longer-lived returns. The Oroville Dam example will be very interesting as the months unfold. Thanks for bringing it up, because the folks that benefit from the Oroville Dam will be asked to help pay for its repair. That's a more straightforward accounting exercise because of the transactions and everything else built in and the history. You know, that's something to fix. There's also watersheds above the dam that need to be fixed. And so we're very interested in encouraging these discussions about the inherent value that can be leveraged in financing solutions in the upper watersheds. And that's both state and regional boards in our regulatory and financing programs are very interested in working with you all to advance these principles. Thanks for having me here today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stacy Heaton with the Rural County Representatives of California. I'm another one of those that dwells with Chief Pimlott in the dead tree section. We represent 35 rural counties statewide, and 22 of our member counties are encompassed by the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. And I see, in fact, several of our elected county supervisors that are on the SNC board here this morning that are representatives to our RCRC board. So good morning, everyone. It's good to see you here. Forest health and watershed restoration is a tip-top priority among our membership, and funding for that, and also the concept of how we get across to those that may not live in the forest and those that may not visit the forest, why this isn't just an issue to those people that live and visit the forest all the time, why the forested watersheds are important to those that live in the Bay Area, that live in Los Angeles, that live in other areas of the state, why this is important to air quality, to climate change. This urban-rural nexus, we feel, is vital to getting the message out and to getting some of the resources and some of the funding that we really need to see programs like the Watershed Improvement Program move forward and really succeed on the level that this entire state needs it to, because this is this health of the Sierras is really a statewide issue. So we appreciate the invitation to sit up here this morning and look really forward to hearing all the presentations today and getting involved in the discussion. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Gary Lipner, the North Central Region Office Chief with DWR, and it's my pleasure to be here today. I think one of the reasons I'm here today, we would likely have a deputy director or director or division chief here, but there's a few things that DWR is taking care of on the emergency nature right now, and very busy with that. That also gives a lot of opportunities, as we heard earlier, of understanding the need of our infrastructure and that things are integrated, and it's not just our reservoirs, but we have to understand the upper watersheds and the entire system and how that works and the importance of it. So in managing the water resources of California, the Department of Water Resources certainly understands that it's critical to have healthy watersheds, and it's my pleasure to be here today to hear updates on the Watershed Improvement Program and continue to help advance that program to measures towards achieving healthy watersheds and to have a sustainable water management system in California. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. If you guys weren't tweeting some of that stuff out, you're not paying attention. So let's go. Get your thumbs and busy. How we doing? The Belinda people like blowing it up over there? Okay, good. All right. So we're going to keep checking in. So thanks, everyone. I appreciate everyone's comments and such. We skipped this guy to my right because the primary partner in the Watershed Improvement Program is the United States Forest Service. They're really the big dog in the Sierra Nevada, so you're kind of between the dead trees and the jewels. You're the big dog, so just think of yourself, the large hat or large cat, whatever it might be. But we really work closely with the U.S. Forest Service up and down the region with the regional office. I particularly want to give a little shout out to Jerry Bird, Liz Berger, I see Sherry Reckler in the audience, Jenny Wilson, who have worked hard to continue to try to move this along the way. And it was really the vision that Randy Moore and his team at the region put out a few years ago in what they called the Leadership Intent for Ecological Restoration that really created the foundation for what was previously and continues to be the Sierra Nevada Forest and Community Initiative, but now the Watershed Improvement Program. So really pleased that you are here with us today, Randy. We appreciate it. So Randy Moore, the Regional Forester for the U.S. Forest Service, Region 5.
Great. Thanks, Jim, and also thanks to the board members as well. I don't know if you recognize the jewel you have in Jim, but he asked me to say that about him when I got up here. Seriously, though, it's been a really a great partnership, and you know, I serve as the regional forester for the U.S. Forest Service, and the Region 5, which we commonly refer to, it really covers California, but it also covers Hawaii and the affiliated Pacific Islands like Guam, Palau, American Samoa, Federated States of Micronesia. And so while I mentioned all of that, California is really about 90% of the workload, even though it's a small geographic footprint in that pattern. So you know, one of the things that I realize and the things that I recognize about California, particularly after spending so much time here, is that I'm told anyway that 95% of Californians live in some type of an urban setting. And, you know, at first, you know, I kind of thought, well, maybe we're talking about urban populations. And, you know, since dealing with the drought and looking at the potential devastation from wildfires there and how it might affect the different communities, we have a tremendous amount of urban settings scattered throughout the national forest. And so I want to say right off the bat that, you know, the mission of the Forest Service is to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of the nation's forests, not just the federal forest, but the nation's forests for current and future generations. And so that's why it's important that we have partners like the state, federal, county, tribal governments, because none of us can do this alone. It's going to require and it's going to take a combined effort to do the work that's needed. Also, looking at carrying out the mission of the agency, you know, the federal government has never really operated as a business. But if I was a business, here's what I would tell you. That when I look at the amount of water that comes off the national forest, it exceeds 50% of all the water that California uses. That water provides drinking water for 23 million Californians. It also helps to provide and sustain an agriculture industry that's valued at somewhere between $37 and $47 billion, I believe, this past year. And, you know, I also look at the hydropower electricity that's generated off the national forest. I was amazed to find out that we generate enough electricity, not just us, but on national forests to provide 2.5 million homes with power supply. I also look at the amount of revenue that's generated from recreational use on national forests, and it's somewhere in the tune of $3.5 billion worth of economic value that's generated off the national forest rec sites. So when I look at that, we're known for our wood, and to be honest with you, the value of wood and timber was somewhere around $300 million, and yet that seems to be the reputation. And I think because the Forest Service has existed now for about 112 years, most of that, our reputation is geared around developing this country. And we use wood to develop this country. But now we're moving into a new era, and we're looking at the next 100 years. And my opinion is that the Forest Service is moving toward looking at values that's produced off the national forest. That water is one of the values that I talked about, because we need to connect the urban with the rural populations because they're so interdependent on each other. And there's an urban and rural gradient that I think is ideal for us to start connecting and developing on these partnerships. We've, like I said earlier, we recognize that we can't do this alone. I think having a partnership with Sierra Nevada Conservancy, having partnerships with other private entities is one of the ways forward as we look particularly for this situation in the Sierras. And so Jim, again, I want to just thank you for the opportunity to work your leadership in developing and nourishing this partnership, because I think it's an ideal way of how we move forward, looking at ecosystem services, looking at benefits, and looking at values that's produced on our nation's forests. not to mention the carbon sequestration, clean air. Those are the kinds of values that the Forest Service is moving toward. And I think California being California, it is leading out in this country with the cap and trade system. And how do we manage and how do we coexist with a system in place like that? And what about ecosystem services? There are so many things that benefit from these values. So how do we all work together to provide resiliency in our landscapes to continue to provide those values? So with that, Jim, I'd like to introduce a short video that highlights the benefits of the Watershed Improvement Program. And as I mentioned, clean air and water are two of the vital elements that really flows from this. And when that happens, you know, it provides critical habitat for plant and wildlife species. A healthy forest provides for hunting, fishing, just solitude. And so I think that you're going to enjoy this. And I'm not sure. Okay, we're ready to go. So let's show this short video.
The Sierra Nevada region is vital to California. It is a major source of both clean air and water. But these resources are vulnerable. Millions of trees have died from insects and drought. Wildfires continue to grow larger and more damaging. And population is increasing in both the region and across the state, placing more demand on these limited resources. To address these challenges, the Sierra Nevada Conservancy and the USDA Forest Service have launched the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program, or WIP. The WIP will coordinate forest and watershed restoration activities. It will help increase both the pace and scale of this restoration work across the entire Sierra Nevada. To reach our restoration goals, we need widespread collaboration to encourage investment in ecologically sound restoration practices, to improve policies for the restoration work, and to develop our capacity to process wood and biomass. With the help of a diverse group of stakeholders, we have developed a regional strategy that will help guide the WIP. This strategy identifies the steps needed to achieve our objectives. It builds upon existing efforts and provides a basis for exploring new models for restoration. It is not our intent to create a single set of priorities, but rather to assist the activities already underway by multiple organizations. We have different missions, but we all share the common goal of a healthy and resilient Sierra Nevada region. You can help by carrying this message to key decision makers. 1. The Sierra Nevada region is critical to the well-being of California. 2. The values provided by the Sierra Nevada, including clean air and water, are at risk. And 3. We are ready to take action to protect this region with the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program. For more information, visit www.restorethesierra.org.
Okay, great, and thank you, and thanks to our friends at the Forest Service for really doing the yeoman's duty on producing that video. It is again available on our website, on the restorethesierra.org website and such.